Good evening on this election night. We interrupt the Stanley Cup playoffs with some breaking news. Julia Letlow speaking after WBRZ projects she will make the runoff.
Let's listen in.
Julia Letlow.
Thank you, Louisiana! I am so excited, and most importantly, I want to say thank you to a very special man who you all know, the best president this country has ever had, President Donald Trump. When he endorsed me in January, I knew this was going to be a tough race. But tonight, Louisiana sent a clear message that they want a candidate to represent them in the Senate who will always put America first and never turn her back on Louisiana voters. People ask me all the time, Julia, why would you put your family through this? Why would you elect to have $26 million spent in negative ads against you? Again, that's another testament to the president's endorsement, how powerful it is in Louisiana, that we were still able to garner 45% of the vote despite the negativity. And when I answer them, I quickly go to my why, and my why is an 8-year-old little boy named Jeremiah John, and my 6-year-old daughter, Jacqueline. They are my why. They're why I wake up every day with that fire in my belly to go fight for this country so that they can enjoy the freedoms that we all enjoyed growing up. And I have a feeling your why, it looks a lot like mine. It's your kids. It's your grandkids. They are the reason why we all fight so hard to make sure that we live in the greatest country in the world. Now, our work is not done. We have one more race coming up, and I will promise you this. I will crisscross all across this state yet again, fighting for families. I want our country to be safe. I am so grateful to President Trump and all he has done to make our communities safe for our kiddos. And I will continue fighting for a secure border that he did on day one when President Biden said it was not possible. I will continue fighting for a strong economy. Look at what we have done in this administration to deregulate and make sure that Louisiana is producing energy again right here in the Gulf of America. Yes. And I will always keep fighting for our kiddos. I know that education is the answer. If you educate a child, you give them a future. And I believe in education at every level, in school choice, our charter schools, and parents' rights. I will continue fighting for those over in the Senate. So I am going to make sure that our story is heard across the rest of the state. I would love to continue to earn your support and garner every vote that I possibly can. And I promise you this, I will never forget that this is not my seat, it is yours, the people's seat. And that will be at the forefront of every decision I ever make and every vote that I ever take. And I am so indebted to you, Louisiana. Thank you so much for giving me this honor of a lifetime. God bless you all. God bless President Trump. God bless Louisiana. And God bless the United States of America. God bless you. Okay, you're done. You're done. You're done.
About 85% of the vote statewide is in Julia Letlow, as she said, with 45% of the vote. John Fleming at 28%, Bill Cassidy at 25%. Once again, Julia Letlow securing a spot in the runoff for Louisiana's Senate seat.
She said that she will, the work is not done. There's one more race to go. She says that in the time remaining, she will crisscross the state talking to voters. We will have much more on the race and election results across the state coming up tonight on WBRZ News 2 at 10 o'clock.
Let's listen in.
And if someone doesn't understand that and attempts to control others through using the levers of power, they're about serving themselves. They're not about serving us. And that person is not qualified to be a leader. Now, being a conservative doesn't mean trying to destroy your opponent. Trying to destroy your opponent. It means trying to win them over with the power of your ideas. Leaders must unite. History shows that when the American people are united, we can beat any country, we can beat any problem, and that's what we have now. Leadership should be steady, not erratic, thoughtful, not impulsive, and leaders should think through the consequences of their actions before embarking on something and then seeing the American people suffer those consequences later. That's how leaders should be judged, and I welcome that judgment on the 12 years I will have spent in the Senate. I'm also asked if I am bothered by being attacked on the internet. Insults only bother me if they come from somebody of character and integrity. And I find that people of character and integrity don't spend their time attacking people on the internet. What matters to me is making our country and our state a better place. I will continue for my time in the Senate to work to make better paying jobs for our state, making health care and health insurance more affordable, lowering the cost of gas and groceries, helping parents secure a better future for their children. That is what I've been fighting for, and I will continue to fight for as long as I am in the Senate. I will work for you. You are my highest priority. I will work for our state, our country, in office and out of office, facing those tough challenges we still have. That is my pledge. Thank you for being here, and thank you for the privilege of representing the great state of Louisiana. I'll take a seat.
All right, Senator Bill Cassidy conceding tonight with 25% of the votes statewide, about 89% of the precincts reporting. WBRZ obviously can project that John Fleming and Julia Letlow will move into a runoff a month from now.
Just giving his concession speech, a couple of the things that he says is that he will continue to focus on health care, lower gas prices, helping parents secure a future for their children. He says that he will continue to work for the people of Louisiana, whether he's in office or not. What happened tonight?
What happened was he just made the best speech of this campaign. If he had campaigned with that kind of attitude and that kind of tone and that kind of language, he would have ended much better tonight than he did.
What anything that surprised you today?
Honestly, I expected, quite honestly, Bill Cassidy to be in a runoff with Julia Letlow. That was my honest prediction, my gut feeling.
Why is that?
I'd seen a number of different polls, including some independent ones from outside Louisiana, that showed that was going to be the likely outcome. And again, I thought that the power of incumbency would carry him into one of those spots. And this was very much, too, a referendum on President Trump's gravitas here in Louisiana with his endorsement of Letlow.
We heard from Letlow just a few minutes earlier once she secured her spot in this runoff with John Fleming, and she said that even though $26 million in negative ads were spent against her, she was still able to prevail or at least move to the next step.
Well, and again, that does speak to how valuable President Trump's endorsement is in this state still, even as his approval rating declines around the country.
We're going to get to a lot of this during the 10 o'clock news hour, but we were kind of talking about some of the parishes where Cassidy did not perform as well as perhaps you had thought he would have leading up to today.
Well, those would be, St. Tammany Parish, Livingston, St. Charles, where he did well, but not well enough, and not as well as he should have or could have done.
So what do you expect to see in the coming weeks as we get into the runoff? What do you expect to see from both of the candidates?
I expect them to continue, both of them, campaigning on who is Trumpier. Congressman or Treasurer Fleming has a history of being a deputy chief of staff in the first Trump administration. They've both campaigned very hard, very heavily on their ties to him. And I think that we're going to continue to see that. Now, that's assuming Treasurer Fleming doesn't read the tea leaves and just decide to do something else.
Do you think that'll happen, that he would
I don't think it's
out?
likely, but I think it's possible. What we cannot assume in a runoff, is that the same voters turn out. So it's a whole new race. And Treasurer Fleming cannot assume that Senator Cassidy's votes are going to swing to him.
Where do you think they would go?
I think they'll stay home. I think the people who stuck with Senator Cassidy in this race did so because they were displeased with the other two candidates. I don't think it was out of any great loyalty to him. I think if he'd been able to inspire folks, like I said he just did with his concession speech, I think the outcome would have been very different for the senator.
Do you think either one of those candidates in the runoff, though, will go and ask for his endorsement?
I think that they should. I don't think either one of them will get it.
Really?
I think Senator Cassidy would be wise at this point just to lay low, keep his powder dry. And he just took some subtle shots in his concession at the political infrastructure that got him to this point. And I think he's, again, if he'd been more aggressive about that in the past, there could have been a very different outcome tonight.
Do you think he's done with politics? That he'll just go and continue to be a doctor now, or what do you think?
I do think so. I do think Senator Cassidy will just return to practice of medicine. I don't know him personally as well as I know Senator Kennedy, for example, but I think Dr. Cassidy is ready to be a doctor again and not a senator.
No chance of going back to Congress?
I wouldn't say no chance, but I think he's had enough.
Okay, well, we certainly have a lot to discuss over the next 30 minutes when the 10 o'clock news begins in about 2 minutes. So we're going to send you back to programming momentarily before we pick it back up.
Sean McDonough, good night from Montreal.
Decker.
For 6 full-size passions. The Lexus TX 3-row luxury. A car that doesn't elevate everyone's experience is a car that stops short of amazing.
It's that time of year where the seasons start to run together.
We can go from jackets and umbrellas one day to short sleeves and sunglasses next.
The Storm Station team of meteorologists on it 24/7.
Tracking the fronts, breaking down the when and why ahead of every change.
Turn to WBRZ, the Storm Station, for your forecast. On air, online, and on the capital area's most comprehensive weather app, keeping you ready for the days ahead.
I'm Spencer Callahan. You're watching the best in sports on WBRZ.
Summer savings start here at Price Mall Toyota.
Save today and all summer long on our lowest prices.
SUV shoppers save $3,000 off on new 4Runners.
Price of one Toyota.
Where our customers come first.
And family makes the difference.
Darling.
Next at 10, polls closed about 2 hours in Louisiana. We have team coverage breaking down the results of tonight's key races.
Plus, new election rules causing confusion, why some no-party voters tell us they had trouble at the polls.
And a heartbreaking end to LSU baseball's regular season. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Michael Shingleton.
I'm Sylvia Witherspoon. News 2 at 10 is next.
Yeah, so we chose K to Z because the team that came made my window treatments reflect the style that I really wanted to portray in our new home. I would recommend K to Z windows because their customer service is excellent.
Investigative, in-depth. This is WBRZ News 2 at 10.
Good evening. We start with one of tonight's most closely watched races, the Republican primary for U.S. Senate. Julia Letlow projected to make the runoff.
As is John Fleming with, 28% of the vote for Fleming, 45% with Letlow. Cassidy losing his seat after frequent attacks from President Trump following his vote to convict him during his second impeachment in 2021.
News 2's Sarah Gray Barr joins us live from Cassidy's watch party, where he just gave his concession speech. Sarah Gray, big loss for him tonight. What's his reaction?
Yeah, Michael, Sylvia, just a few minutes ago, like you said, Senator Bill Cassidy finished speaking with his voters. And he said that he wasn't pleased with how the race went, but he was happy with the race he personally ran. We're going to cut to some video of the election night party. Once the doors opened at 7 o'clock, people slowly trickled in. On Friday, Cassidy was confident, and on Saturday, telling reporters he expected to be in the Senate next year drafting more bills. And then he followed that up by saying if he wasn't winning outright, he expected to be in the runoff. Cassidy said moving forward, his goal is to finish out his term as senator, continuing to serve the people of Louisiana. We're going to cut to what he told voters tonight.
Now, I came out and I said I felt great. I do feel great. You know, I've had the privilege of representing the state of Louisiana for 12 years. I've been able to participate in democracy. And when you participate in democracy, sometimes it doesn't turn out the way you want it to. But you don't pout. You don't whine. You don't claim the election was stolen. You don't find a reason why. You don't manufacture some excuse. You thank the voters for the privilege of representing the state or the country for as long as you've had that privilege. And that's what I'm doing right now.
It's unclear right now what Cassidy's political career will look like moving forward, but the runoff is scheduled for June 27. Reporting live, Sarah Gray Bard, WBRZ News 2.
All right, Sarah Gray, thank you. Our political analyst James Hartman joining us here tonight, breaking down the Senate race. Your takeaway from what he said there in the concession speech?
Well, as I said before the break, I think Senator Cassidy just gave the best speech of the campaign, too little, too late. He apparently has grown a spine where it comes to the White House and President Trump, and is willing to say things that he should have said all along that would have made him a more obvious leader.
Do you think he'll be a lot more outspoken now?
I hope so. You know, Bill has been a really good legislator. He's been a really bad politician, and that's been true from the get. You know, when he beat Senator Landrieu 12 years ago, it wasn't because he was a great politician or ran a great campaign. It's because Barack Obama was president, and people were tired of Democrats. And it wasn't even that Senator Landrieu had done anything wrong.
Let's hold that thought for just a second. We need to get to Julia Letlow. In the runoff against John Fleming, News 2's Alexis Marity picking up our team coverage from that watch party here in Baton Rouge.
Hey there, the party is really just getting started here. After Julia Letlow made it into the runoff, we heard from her just a couple of moments ago, getting into the runoff with 45% of the vote. That is huge for this race. I want to show you that the crowd is still very much having a good time. The drinks are flowing, the food is going. The party is not stopping anytime soon. And that's because this has been such an interesting race to watch. From the beginning, Julia Letlow was really in the lead with this race. You could see that throughout the evening. And then this evening, when she spoke to voters, when she spoke to the folks who were here, she said, this isn't about her. This is about the voters in Louisiana. This is what this election is about.
I will never forget that this is not my seat. It is yours, the people's seat. And that will be at the forefront of every decision I ever make and every vote that I ever take. And I am so indebted to you, Louisiana. Thank you so much for giving me this honor of a lifetime. God bless you all. God bless President Trump. God bless Louisiana. And God bless the United States of America. God bless you.
Letlow also spoke about some of her plans if she makes it into that Senate seat. We asked her, what are her plans when she makes it back to D.C., if she makes it back to D.C. with this seat. And she said she has a huge focus on education, but of course she'll wait to see what the priorities are for the Senate. Of course, the runoff is still to come, but Letlow said she's feeling very confident going into the summer. Reporting live, Alexis Marity, WBRZ News 2.
James, I have to ask you, she said, Julia Letlow said earlier that Cassidy spent more than $26 million on negative ads. I don't think I saw that she responded with any type of negative ads. Do you think that helped with this?
She didn't respond to him with negative ads. She's been doing a lot of negative toward Dr. Fleming in recent weeks. Which suggests that she also saw the poll that Fleming was surging.
So about that, what was the strategy there? Did she possibly think she could? Alexis just said something that was remarkable. 45% is huge, and it is. There was a possibility tonight she could have gotten to 50?
It was mathematically possible. It wasn't politically likely. But certainly the amazing outcome of essentially unseating an incumbent senator or two-term senators is extraordinary.
Okay. Stand by. We have a lot more to get to.
In fact, let's go to the Democratic Senate primary right now to take a look at those results, if we can pull those up. And we have it there. You see with what, 93% of the precincts reporting there. Jamie Davis, 48% to Gary Crockett, 26%.
And another big race tonight, Amendment 2. This is the third candidate there, Nick Alvarez. He was a member of
John Bel
Edwards' staff. Yeah, so getting to Amendment 2, this might have been shocking to some people in the southern part of East Baton Rouge Parish. The St. George School District has failed here in Baton Rouge.
Can we talk about that for a minute? What do you think happened there?
I think there is more Democrat organization than we can see. I think that while the Democrats are not organized at a macro level, I think that all of these amendments were very much a Jeff Landry push. Not as much as they were last year, but this was very much a Jeff Landry package of amendments. And I think we saw a lot of people just pushing back on that.
So do you think they go back to the drawing board, or what do you think, St. George?
It's hard to predict what St. George will do. It wouldn't surprise me to see them try again, but after all these years and all the money they've spent, it's unfortunate for them to see this kind of outcome.
Did St. George do enough statewide to get out the vote?
Probably not, but they probably didn't have the funding to do a true statewide campaign. We talked about this before we went on the air, and a lot of people elsewhere in the state have said to me, well, if this is what the people of St. George want, why should I vote against it from St. Tammany Parish, for example? But apparently that was not the prevailing consensus.
Sure. Okay, let's take a look at the other constitutional amendments here. The other four, they were also failing as well. Voters rejected Amendment 1, which would have altered state civil service positions.
Amendment 3, which would have given public school teachers a pay raise, also failed there. You can see the numbers there, 58% to 42%.
Let's take a look at Amendment 4. This also failed by a pretty wide margin here. Most of the state reporting 66% say no, 34% say yes. This is the one that would have created a property tax exemption for businesses.
And then Amendment 5, which would raise the retirement age for judges from 75 to 70, and that one also failed. You see the numbers there, 76% to 24%. Today was a first for Louisiana primary voters. It is the first election to use Louisiana's new closed primary system.
And those new restrictions and rules caused some confusion for several voters at the polls today. Let's bring in David Hamilton, joining us live from the Parish Registrar of Voters office. David, what can you tell us?
Michael, Sylvia, several voters said they were unaware of the new system despite a lot of recent attention and coverage about the closed primary. They told me when they arrived at the polls, they were confused about the new rules. As voters went to cast their ballots, candidates and amendments weren't the only thing on their mind. New rules and procedures created confusion for some.
I'm 63 years old now, and this is the first time this has ever happened to me where I was denied to vote.
Daryl Meredith, a former independent now registered with no party, says he was turned away.
I said, what is that? I didn't even know that exists for me.
For some, the confusion stemmed from a change in party registration. Under the new closed primary system, voters, once listed as independent, now are classified as no party.
We've heard a little bit of folks saying, when I get there, I was given the wrong ballot. So I don't understand why we're having so many issues in terms of on the side of the poll commissioners, but I think there's a little bit of work that we need to do before the next election cycle.
East Baton Rouge's Clerk of Court office will review what might have gone wrong and implement any needed changes for the next vote.
After the election's over, we're going to do our audits and things like that. Once we do our audits, we'll find more, and then we'll do our training to make sure the commissioners learn from any mistakes they made.
Officials saying independent or no party voters told poll workers they did not want to choose or declare a party.
This election right here made some people realize they're registered as one way, but they always thought they were registered as a different way. Really did not want to fill those forms out, so some of them refused to fill out the forms. We still tried to allow them to vote at a no-party ballot if that happened.
The Clerk of Court also says today's election had a very steady turnout. Reporting in Baton Rouge, David Hamilton, WBRZ News 2.
Going to bring back in James Hartman here. What do you think led to all this confusion?
I think that too few people are paying attention to the news. I think that moving back to the party primary system for the first time in 18 years, 16 years, had people very confused. The very fact of having to vote in May threw a lot of people off. Probably hurt Senator Cassidy, by the way. And
Why is that?
I'm sorry?
Why is that?
Because I think that people who might have turned out to vote for him heard congressional race was canceled and so didn't bother to show up. But certainly the confusion is understandable, as is the frustration. But also ask yourself the logical question, if you don't belong to any political party, why should you be able to vote in that party's primary without choosing? So it's hard for me to swallow that anyone was truly denied the opportunity to vote. No one was forced to switch parties. They were just given an option to choose today which party they wanted to vote in.
What was the point in changing at this point?
The point in changing
and it seems so abrupt also.
Changing to the closed primary?
Changing to the closed primary.
The point of that was to punish Senator Cassidy for voting against President Trump in the last impeachment trial. I mean, this closed primary was clearly designed to give advantage to, obviously, Congresswoman Letlow. At the time, we didn't know who it would be. She may have, the president may have, but to take advantages away from Senator Cassidy.
And then in the fall, it'll be an open primary. Yes.
And the fall for the
Back
House.
to how it's been.
The way it's always been.
Right.
The way it's more comfortable for Louisianans, yes.
All right. Stand by. We will have much more. Sunday kicks off a new weather pattern for the capital area, Balin.
Yeah, we're really going to be flipping the switch on the weather pattern that we have been under. We've been pretty dry for this past week. We haven't had a ton of humidity out there as well, but watch this. We flip the switch and all of a sudden, tomorrow we're going to be very humid and we're also going to see pop-up showers and thunderstorms into the afternoon and evening. Now, not everyone is going to see this activity. Coverage is going to be right at 40%. So a decent chunk of us, but that means 60% of the area is not going to receive any sort of measurable rainfall. But we're all going to feel the warm air. 86 is the high. And yeah, it's going to be very humid outside. The air is definitely going to have a sticky feel to it. Now, right now, the current temperatures show us pretty muggy in the upper 70s across much locations. 74 in Morgan City, but even the lower 70s now starting to sneak in across that state line, 70 degrees in Macomb. We're going to bottom out in the upper 60s tonight, so a pretty muggy start to your Sunday morning, and then we see the 80s tomorrow, and we see some showers and storms popping in the afternoon and evening. Feels like values because of high humidity getting into the 90s. But we're about to move into a stormy pattern, especially by the middle of next week. I'll give you more detail on what to expect, but that coming up next. Michael and Sylvia, back to you.
Balin, thank you for that. Our team coverage of election night results continues after the break.
First, let's take a look at some of the other races around our area.
Buying a mattress can be confusing, but not at locally owned Mattress Direct.
Our Memorial Day sale is here. Get up to $1,000 off premium brands like Tempur.